How are you doing, Nick?
I am doing fantastic. I am trying to get a couple of new shows for the station launched.
You told me a little bit about
One
it.
of them is a history docuseries that I'm trying to
Ooh,
raise funds for. I'm very
that can't be
excited about
easy.
it. We have a lot of local historical experts. I'm making relationships with the local historical society and the local museums so that we will be able to pull historical photographs and land records and documents.
So with this historical society, are you gonna like delve into the history of Easton, Maryland?
It's the Eastern Shore, so it's a little bigger than just the city. But yeah, I grew up in the Midwest where you are, and things historically didn't really get really ramping up until like the early 1800s, whereas being in Maryland, like it started happening here in the 1600s. So
That's true.
it goes back a long ways. The one of the first episodes that I'm going to be producing is on the Hill community, which is a recently discovered, and the wording is a little specific, but it is the longest occupied free black community. So it goes back to the mid to late 1700s
Really?
when a free black community came together, and it's still occupied today and has been continuously occupied. So until this discovery, that title went to, I believe, a community in Louisiana. So it was kind of a big deal for the locals. They did a big archaeological dig. They found a lot of artifacts.
Did they find a fife with the revelation that your town founder tried to kill George Washington?
They did, unfortunately, no. The fife that they found did not have any documents hidden inside of it. They did, however, find buttons from a Buffalo Soldier's uniform.
Man, buffalo are easy to kill.
So there's a lot of historical.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, stuff there.
Well, once the show has been produced, will there be a way that our listeners can see it without living in Maryland?
I am sure that unless things change dramatically, it will be up on the MCTV YouTube page. So yes.
Well, then, I know everyone always loves going to the MCTV YouTube page to check out our show.
Right.
I think once
Which I
this
don't
is up
think
there,
I don't think we mention enough because most of our episodes get like 3 views, so people don't know that it's out there and available.
but aren't we still like the second most viewed show?
We just that one
I'm kidding.
episode.
I'm kidding.
That one episode was like we got like 350 views.
Which episode was that?
Daddy issues.
Of all the weird episodes to get views, it's the
What
one
are
where
people
we're...
searching on YouTube that they come to that one?
And what's weird though is not only did they search for something along those lines, but then they kept it up.
Yeah.
And they watched it.
I have been working on our like tags and descriptions and things, and that has improved our view results. So it's starting to increase.
Those are hard.
Yeah.
Especially like on the this is inside baseball stuff, but the tags part on the podcast side, just the audio side of it is so difficult because Apple no longer uses tags. So you need to have a good description of what the show is in the title. So it makes it very difficult.
Yep.
But anyways, that show sounds phenomenal, and I expect you to Ken Burns the shit out of it, and make sure you have slow zoom in on pictures
Right.
and stuff like that.
No,
And
I'm gonna do that technique. You saw it a lot, like 3 to 5 years ago in documentaries, but I love it so much that even though it's no longer in vogue, I'm gonna use the shit out of it. Where you like Photoshop layers out of historical photos.
Oh, so you can like zoom one part
Yes.
of it in? Or,
Yep.
Yeah. I always liked that because I used to it's such a simple effect.
Right, but
It's such a...
it's gives so much life to this ordinarily like flat 2-dimensional thing. That it's incredible how much dimension it adds and interest. The other thing that I'm working on is a Dungeons and Dragons live stream show.
I did see that.
So, yeah. So that's what I got going on. How about you?
Sounds. Well, for me, I've been trying to get a new short film off the ground.
Oh,
I don't know if I told you
about Dial G for Guillotine.
Yeah, Dial G for Guillotine. I've been trying to get that off the ground. Up until this previous week where there was a death in the family, I had a lot of steam going of meeting up with people. And biggest thing of all, without spoiling the film, because I want people to see it, so I'm not going to tell them everything it's about, but it's about a guillotine. Our faithful lead character loses not one, but 2 body parts in said guillotine. So, and the entire third act of the film is him missing body parts and trying to figure out the best way to do that. So I've got to meet with some effects artists and figure out the best way to because if I can't VFX out body parts, there's no point in doing this.
Right.
Because it's real, or I have to find a better way to do it. So I've got to meet with some effects guys I know and figure out, 1, how possible it is, and 2, how broke I'm going to go trying to make this happen. I'm meeting with a producing buddy of mine who wants to help me get it made. And the ultimate goal is to shoot the climax first, because if that stuff doesn't work, then I can give up before it's too late.
Sure.
You know? As opposed to shoot everything and then doing that and be like, oh man, none of this is working. What the fuck am I going to do? So
disappoint him early.
Yeah, exactly. Disappoint myself early. And other than that, other than the revelation you gave me last night about a plan that you've got going on.
Oh yeah, it's a long-term plan. It's nothing that I can pull off in the next couple months, but yeah. That'll be
perfect. Yeah, I don't got a whole lot going on, honestly.
Well, that sounded like a lot. You're just trying to make a movie.
Yeah, just trying to make a movie, you know.
Small potatoes.
And then I found out the screenwriting software I used to use, a program called Celtex. It used to be freeware. Then they went to like subscription service where you have to pay per year. And I was still using an old version of I never updated it, and I was just using an old version so I didn't have to pay for it. I logged on today when I was waiting on you, and I realized that it won't let me use it anymore because it's out of date. So now I got to find a new free software to write my little movies with.
Bastards.
I know. So, anything else you want to talk about? Any new news or old news?
I thought there was, but I was so rattled this morning that and I didn't take notes like I was supposed to. Well, I can say we've started that segment where we're going to be talking to other people about what's on their shame list, and on today's episode, I'm very excited that I got to talk to another filmmaker friend who I met on the film festival circuit for Normal. I met him a couple months before I met you. Dave Brown, a Scottish filmmaker.
That's fantastic. So we're going to get a little bit of cultural.
Yeah, he did
episode.
Apologize in the beginning. You'll possibly hear that he's very Scottish and very Glaswegian. So you may not be able to understand most of what he says. But
don't worry, this is audio. We will not have subtitles.
Right.
And then before we get into the actual episode, we do have another patron that we have not had a chance to thank yet, because
excellent.
Our last episode was a canned episode, and yeah. So, anyways, I wanted to make sure he got his thanks in. Stephen Millick, he is a. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe him. He's a film festival programmer here in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Him and his partner in crime run the Twisted Dreams Horror Film Festival.
Yep, sure.
He's been a longtime supporter of the show. He even popped up on one of our, I call it our call-in episodes, when we were doing that for a short period of time, where people could kind of call in and say some, talk about a certain movie that we're talking about. He joined the Patreon, and I wanted to give him a little shout out for supporting us.
Of course.
So
right on.
That is our big thing.
And hey, if you haven't been shouted out to through Patreon, why haven't you signed up for it yet?
Yeah. Exactly. We haven't gotten any reviews in a while either. I've not gotten a chance to read out any reviews. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I haven't checked that in a minute. Let me cut out this quick little bit of blank
while
air
you're
because
doing
I wanna
that, I
check.
will say, we talked about it a little bit in the last episode, but if you go over to patreon.com/shameless picture show,
Yep.
Shameless Picture Show, you can find all of our different pledge levels. And even if it's just at $1 a month, it comes out of your bank account. You're not going to miss that $1 a month as it sneaks off to the Shameless Picture Show to support, to allow us to cover our hosting costs and the initial purchase of the merch that we can then provide to you.
Yeah.
Check it out. Please become a Patreon supporter, and we will be ever so grateful.
Just gonna say, so we've only got the 4 reviews, which I've read on the air.
Okay.
We've got 12 ratings on the show.
Okay.
Only 12. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Almost all of them are 5-star reviews, except for one Fuddy Duddy who gave us 3 stars.
Well, speak your truth. I'm not.
I wish he would have said why he gave us 3 stars, though.
It's like, No 1-star reviews, though.
That's very true.
Rate us on Yelp.
Exactly. So if that's it, I can start. We can get to the topic at hand.
Let's do it.
Warning! This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shameless Picture Show. I am Michael Viers, and with me, as always, is one guy that I can guarantee would raid a fortified drug den with me.
Nick Richards.
On today's episode of the show, we'll be talking about Gareth Evans' Indonesian action film, The Raid, aka The Raid Redemption.
Selamat pagi. Mungkin Anda sudah mendengar kalau kita kedatangan tamu tak diundang. Selamat bekerja. Dan jangan lupa bersenang-senang.
The film was chosen by Robert Flounderward, a patron in our auditorium tier on our Patreon. As a refresher, in this tier, you get our undying gratitude and love, a button, a sticker, and either an episode topic of your choice or a guest spot. Also, keep in mind that within the next month or two, we will be revising the Patreon levels just a little bit. So if we add anything cool, everything will be adjusted for, and you'll get any new cool stuff that we're talking about. Yeah.
Nice.
In the raid, we follow a special operatives team as they prepare to raid a large building. Inside the building is floors upon floors of junkies, and at the top sits a ruthless drug lord named Tama Riyadi. The goal? To bring him in, dead or alive. Rama, a rookie on the team, is essentially our hero as we follow his journey most closely. He's new to the force, has a wife and a child on the way, and wants this mission to go smoothly. This won't be an easy mission, as the team is quickly discovered and Tama Tamariyata sends out a message to all junkies in the building. Whoever kills the intruders gets to live for free within the building. Thus begins the thrill ride of survival. The Raid was written and directed by Welsh filmmaker Gareth Evans, and the idea came to him while shooting a documentary called Footsteps in Indonesia about its native style of martial arts called Pancak Silat. I might be mispronouncing it. If we have any Indonesian listeners, please correct me. He became enamored by the style and country, and after making a film called Merantau with star Iko Uwais, I looked it up earlier, I think it's Uwais, wanted to make something bigger. The Raid would become a breakout film with Gareth Evans, and the crew would lead to the Raid would become a breakout film for Gareth Evans and crew, which would lead to a sequel to The Raid, a section in the anthology film VHS2, and a successful career making genre films. The film stars an entirely Indonesian cast, which is comprised of Iko Uwais, Joe Taslim, Ray Sia Sahitapi, and Donnie Alamsia. I am so sorry.
We are
for this.
so white.
Yes, I tried. I
You did. You know what? I do not envy that test that you had ahead of you, and you came out admirably from my perspective.
The film would also feature music by Linkin Park member Mike Shinoda, and the film would go on to win a slew of awards at film festivals across the world. So
Nice.
That's The Raid.
All right.
Good night, folks.
Good. That's it. That was enough work for you today.
Woo, that was tough. Anyways, so I had never seen The Raid.
Nor had I.
And it really confused me because when Flounder first suggested, he's like, "Oh, you guys got to talk about The Raid Redemption." And I was like, "Do I need to see the first Raid to understand this?" And he's like, "The Raid Redemption is the first film." I'm like,
Then what are they redempting?
and then there's The Raid 2, which is what I thought this one was.
Right.
So that took a little bit of that was a little confusing at first, but as I said, Robert Ward, I'm just going to call him Flounder. Flounder's the name I know him by, and I think he'll prefer it better that way. Flounder suggested, originally he wanted us to talk about Top Gun.
Oh, okay.
Because I've never seen it. Well, I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I just never,
I'm the same way, bits and pieces.
And he loves it. But and then I told and then just last minute he changed. He's like, "No, I want you guys to talk about The Raid," because he said it's his favorite action movie.
Okay.
And it's been a movie that's been on my shame list for a while to see, because it's a movie that anytime it's ever brought up, people have nothing but glowing things to say about it. So
I had never heard of it.
You had never heard of it?
No.
Well, it's apparently you don't watch enough Indonesian cinema, Nick.
Shame on me.
Well, plus it's also like I actually, when I first heard about it, I knew it was a martial arts film. I knew it featured in Indonesian fighting style and Indonesian actors. I wasn't expecting it to be fully subtitled, and especially because whenever time I saw the name Gareth Evans, I was like, oh, he doesn't seem Indonesian to me, and he's not. He's from Welsh, but he lived in Indonesia for a while and picked up the custom. So I was like, there were so many confusing elements to me that I just could not put it together. But what'd you think of The Raid, Nick? Because you had never even heard of it. I
hadn't heard of it. And action films are not my typical go-to.
Yes, we've talked a little bit about that.
What I will say about it is I thought it was beautiful. I was very aware the whole time of how much choreography went into the camera work. As you're watching these fight sequences, and it's easy to think about the choreography of the actors, but how the camera crew must have had to be equally as choreographed in very complex ways, and I thought that was really beautiful.
I'll continue.
I'm the story guy. That's been pointed out time and time again. And
yes, I wanted to talk about that too.
You get like 5 minutes in the beginning where it's like, all right, here are the stakes. Baby on the way. Wife. All right, get up and go to work. And here's why we're going in. Don't ask any questions. There's a reason, and you can tell there's a reason why you shouldn't ask any questions.
That was so crazy. It's like, don't ask any questions, but I've got questions. No, you don't. Like, we're paraphrasing, but that's very much how it felt.
And then it was like, Act 1, machine guns. Act 2, machetes. Act 3, or they like ran out of bullets, so now everybody has machetes. And then apparently everyone lost their machetes, so then Act 3 is all hand-to-hand combat. and then you get like the wrap up 10 minutes of story at the end. So I found it very like sectioned off. You know, that was like, here's the intro story, here's the machine gun section, here's the machete section, here's the hand-to-hand combat section, and then you get your 10 minutes of wrap-up story at the end. But that's not what this movie is. I think what this movie was trying to do, they did incredibly well. To the point that I appreciated it as somebody who typically does not go in for this kind of movie.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I felt too. Like I had a great time watching it, and I can definitely see why for like Flounder and for many other people I know, like this is like, you know, as they said, their favorite action movie, the greatest action movies they ever saw, because one, there was this great like John Woo element to it where like, okay, so there is kung fu, there is this, you know, this hand-to-hand fighting martial arts style, but then like they also are using guns, and at times they're kind of using guns in hand-to-hand combat, which is still really a unique combination of things. It's a fighting style that we don't ever really get to see. The film has got this really kind of cool like documentary style to it where it's you feel very much like a fly in the wall throughout this entire situation. But I'm very much like you, where there's a certain point where I wouldn't necessarily say I'm getting bored, because that's not the case, but I needed a little bit more story to keep me going. And they did finally bring some in where we got to know about Rama and his brother Andy.
Yep.
And that kind of brought some new elements into it, because like you know, because like at first it's like, well, why do we care about this mission other than the fact that it's a mission? You know, and then you kind of got the feeling from the very beginning, because you had the sergeant who was leading the team, and you're like, okay, I don't trust this guy because he's being very flighty about everything. So yeah, I almost feel like to me at times it felt like it was like the first and maybe even second act of a movie that was stretched out. Yeah. So I actually do want to see the Raid 2 and see how that plays out, and to see if it adds any more story.
The second redemption.
Yes, where and see if there's any more story where like I was hoping for a little bit more.
Like
and like I don't want to make it sound like I'm trashing the film at all, because I really did enjoy it. But you're more story based than I am, but even I felt like I wanted just a little bit more, not a lot, just a little bit more reason to care.
Yeah, I think had that intro 5 minutes had that leaked into like the first 15 minutes a bit more, like I never for a second doubted that the older white-haired, I think they called him the lieutenant, was like in sending everybody in here for bad reason, or for selfish self-promoted purposes. Like you knew that from the second you saw him and he opened his mouth. You knew how everything was going to play out in terms of the story from the first 5 minutes. The guy with the baby on the way, it's like, oh, there's his stakes. You know, it was very transparent, and that's fine. Like I wasn't put off by it.
Yeah.
But
I'm not one of those people that like if something's cliched, it's automatically bad.
Yeah.
Like, you know, to come up with something truly different and truly original every time you try to make a movie is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
So like I don't think tropes, I don't think cliches are bad.
No. The other really positive thing that I'll say about this film is I thought that the setting, this apartment, this, you know, high-rise apartment complex that kind of turns into a fortress, I thought was really smart, really effective. It felt claustrophobic. I liked that beginning sequence where they were clearing the first few floors and they'd cut to the number in the stairwell to show you which floor they had just cleared and how they were being very efficient. And then when that all goes wrong, when they shoot the kid running out and it goes into slow motion as they hit the alarm, that tension was so incredible. That that sequence was so well done, and I was on the edge of my seat.
There was a couple scenes like that in this movie. That was being one, and I also love too, like how smoothly it was going at the beginning.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, they're gonna knock out this building.
Right?
To me, it felt like a video game. It felt like
yes.
Like the entry levels of the video game. It's like, oh, this isn't so bad. This isn't so hard, and then just starts going wrong, and you start losing all. Like you have all these highly trained killers, and yeah, I know they made a point to mention that some of them are rookies and everything, but like people are just getting slaughtered one after another. It felt very much like a zombie film in that way, where if you have enough people, even if they're not trained, coming after you, they're gonna start taking you out.
Right.
And it's like it also had a great motivator for these people who are just the junkies in the building. They're like, oh, I can live here rent free and just get high all the time. Yes, I'm gonna just go crazy.
I loved how that was the motivating factor to like summon this army. Like, hey, rent control.
I know.
Do you want a lifetime of free rent? Yes, I will murder anybody to get that.
It's very timely because I'm sure if they were to add like a subplot like that to the Purge movies, it's like if you take out these purgers, you can live and you don't have to pay rent anymore. Oh, really?
Oh, damn.
Do I have to pay for utilities? Okay, I'll just do it anyway.
And we'll throw in Hulu.
I get Hulu for free if I kill this deal. Like I feel like
promo code shameless.
I feel like it's a weirdly strong motivator, even for these junkies who just all they want to do is get high. They're like, that's one less thing I have to pay for. Yes, right. Man.
Like it was equal parts ridiculous and believable, which is why I loved it so much. That's why it
worked so well. And then I also love the one guy who's not a junkie, or at least we don't think he is, who lives there. It's like, is this the best you could do?
Was this the guy that helped him hide in the wall?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember that guy's name. I'm looking it up to see if I can find his name, but no, I can't find it. But anyways, it's like he I love that him and his wife are just living here. It's like, is this the best you guys could do? I didn't think you could, unless you're a junkie, you could even get a room here. That
scene in particular, I found one really good thing to say about it, and one thing that I was kind of laughing to myself about. The fact that, and I understand the purpose of it for tension, about how the medium range bad guy went up and started like stabbing the wall with his machete. And it was very tense. Like with the knife through the wall, like resting on his cheek.
Got the cheek and then like he had to like grab the machete to get the blood off of it. It's like that scene had a lot of tension to it.
But the fact that he went up to like a random wall that there happened to be people hiding in and just started stabbing it to test if there were people in the walls. And didn't go around the house like stabbing walls. Like just went right up there and just started like I'm like, okay. All right, I guess I'll give that one to you. But
sorry, continue.
The positive thing goes back to the choreography of the camera and how it would go from this wild handheld to these very still, smooth moving shots, and those overhead shots that would kind of move above the what would be the ceiling with the ceiling removed, where you could see both him stabbing the wall and them hiding in the wall. I found the way that they played with the movement of the camera back and forth to create these moments of quiet tension and then chaos, I found very effective. And that was one of those moments that really stood out.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think I've talked about in the show before where I'm not usually a huge fan of bottle films because I feel like not enough directors are talented enough, and that even sounds mean, but like I just feel like it's very hard to make one location or a handful of locations constantly interesting throughout the entire film.
Sure.
Unless you have just a real, really crazy settings or something like that. But like, this is a I don't even want to say an apartment complex because that's giving it too much credit. This is a rundown building filled with rundown rooms. Like if you see anything in the people's rooms, that's maybe a TV and a rice cooker.
Right. I noticed the nice rice cooker.
I was counting how many rooms had rice cookers. I found that really just a great detail because I assume in Indonesia they eat a lot of rice.
Yeah,
so. And it's an inexpensive meal, so it became funny counting all the rice cookers. But like the rooms are all pretty much the same. Realistically, I'm thinking from a filmmaking standpoint, they probably could have had a handful of rooms and just kind of recycled them, changed the settings.
Right.
But this movie found ways to make these rather generic looking sceneries constantly engaging.
Yeah.
Because in terms of a production design, most of the building is run down. It uses the same color templates on all the walls. Even the room where they could have gotten the most crazy with their production design was like the drug lord's hideout,
And they kept
even
it
that
pretty
was
simple.
run down. No, like even him, like he's not wearing like crazy suits or anything. He's just walking around eating an apple with sandals on. Like
With his,
he
like,
himself
white
is
tank
nothing.
top.
Yeah, is nothing that special. But they were able, because of the very dynamic cinematography and the way they moved the camera, kept that interesting, because they didn't stick with one style for too long. You know, they went handheld when it felt like they needed to, and they went, like you said, really slow and steady other times, and they would really show a lot of style throughout.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what kept me going, was anytime that, you know, my filmmaking brain would say to like, oh, you know, I don't want to say starting to get bored, but I can't think of another descriptor for it. Anytime my filmmaking brain would start to lose interest, I would see something that would keep me going. And like the big reveal at one point I'm struggling with names.
Yeah,
with Rama's brother, Andy, when we find out that they're connected, it's like, oh, that was another thing that kept me going.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for that moment with the beginning when assuming his father was very quick saying, "Bring him back." Right before they're.
And then, funny enough, I forgot about that line because later on, when, you know, looking back on it, it was Mad Dog and Andy kind of looking at the surveillance cameras, and I don't know if it's pronounced Andy, but it looks like it. It's ANDI.
I think we need to just throw out a huge disclaimer of we are going to pronounce all of these names wrong.
Or maybe it's Andy. I would say Andy. That sounds a little better. Andy was looking at the cameras, and I was like, oh, he knows him, obviously. I didn't think of like a family member, but I was like, I bet they've got bad blood.
Right. There was
that's gonna become a big fight later on.
Whenever I was thinking the same thing when they were in the tank kind of truck pulling up, and it's like there was the sergeant, there was our protagonist, and then there was one guy. It's like, oh, he's a loose cannon who is going to end up being a liability on this mission. He doesn't give two shits about nothing. It's a good thing our protagonist is so level-headed, and he has, you know, a baby on the way to make sure that he survives. It was all the tropes of you need that guy who just doesn't give a damn and is in there just to fuck shit up.
Yep. One thing I did kind of love is that, one, I love that, like I said, other gangster films, for lack of a better term, I feel like would have made the big boss guy into, like, you know, wearing nice suits and, you know, a very Scarface type situation. I love that they did. He's just some dude.
Right, sweatpants.
Yeah, he's comfortable.
Yep.
He's comfortable at all times. But I love that. So at the beginning montage of the film, where we're seeing Rama, you know, practice that Salat fighting style, and is getting ready for work, and, you know, I always like scenes like this, because it's like, you know, it shows someone's dedication. You know, they get up way before they have to get all this stuff in, to show how serious they are. And I love that, you know, when she went down and he had to start using martial arts, when
everyone ran out of machetes.
Yeah, he wasn't just instantaneously like Bruce Lee, I'm gonna destroy everyone. He was still getting his
Yeah.
And I love any time an action hero is imperfect.
I found that to be true through most of it. Where it stood out as a little false to me was when the brothers were taking on Mad Dog together.
Mm-hmm.
And was it Andy, you said?
That's what I've been saying, yeah.
He was chained up, getting his ass beat, and like he's, nearly to death, and then he finally releases him. Mm-hmm. The way he jumped up and was able to fight, like I felt he, like that surge. You could say adrenaline or what. I didn't buy that he could have fought that effectively after that beating he took. Nor do I think that Mad Dog was taking it easy on him. I tried a couple of different explanations to make me feel better, and it just didn't. But
one
again,
thing that
it's not what this movie is, like, and that's okay.
One thing that I absolutely love in action films, because like action films are not usually my go-to either. Like the ones I like, I really love, and but it was never always like my genre. Like I like kung fu films, and there's subgenres of the action genre that I really do like. But one thing that I've always liked is I love in movies, and whether it be an action movie or just a movie with a fight scene, when the fight scenes are really ugly to look at because they're imperfect and not like where the choreography is so good that it doesn't feel like it has any choreography. Because there's a couple times where people would land in this movie like on the corners of tables and I'm like, oh god, that looked like it really hurt.
Yeah, no,
people would land in really weird ways. I'm like, how are you not dead? Because like they would land on their necks and like they'd land one guy landed on the corner of a table.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that looks so painful.
No, I agree. It felt very real in a way that a lot of fight sequences don't.
And I first started becoming aware of this style of choreography with two movies. It was actually, funny enough, Pineapple Express.
I shouldn't have drank coffee just before you said that.
You didn't know what I was going to say.
No.
And then
I didn't expect that direction.
Kill Bill Volume 2, and I'll explain what I mean. So, like, I Pineapple Express is always a comedy I've really enjoyed, because I thought it was a really smart stoner comedy. And they have this scene halfway through where Seth Rogen and James Franco are fighting Danny McBride. Because Danny McBride sold them out, and they had this really just ugly fight. They're throwing each other through walls. None of it looks good. And like I was listening to the audio commentary, and the director's like, "Yeah, I love the idea of having a fight scene in a movie where none of the people know how to fight." He's like, like little things like someone gets hit over the head with a bong, or someone gets thrown into a wall and they don't get up right away because it hurts and it sucks.
No. Where are you going, huh? Where do you think you're going, Mr. Wiggles? Come on. Get back here. So help me. Help me. He's punching my bum. Woo! I'm done with this. Let's talk. Let's try words. Use words. No.
You okay, man? Look, I'll get you another bong, all right?
It's my cat's birthday.
And then like Quentin Tarantino talks about the fight scene in Kill Bill Volume 2 where Uma Thurman and the woman with the eye patch are fighting in the what's it called, trailer, like the living trailer. I can't think what they're called. Trailer for a trailer park. Mobile home, yes. And there's not enough room to have a fight, so they're like she can't even get her sword out because she has so little space, and they're having just this really ugly fight. And he said, yeah, when I was figuring out the choreography of that scene, I had just watched Jackass 2, and I just thought, let's do a Jackass style fight in the middle of this kung fu movie. And ever since like I heard them both talking about like just doing ugly fights, for lack of a better term, I'm more aware of it now. And like that's what I loved about this film is like, so while a lot of the martial arts was really beautiful, the way it was shot and the way that the choreography played out was really sometimes unpleasant to look at and very realistic in that way. And actually one of my favorite like attack or fight or whatever scenes actually doesn't even have like a lot of the really nice martial arts. It's when I want to say like the remaining members of the attack squad go into like the room where they're making all the drugs. And, there's some people who don't know how to fight. The gray-haired captain is just, throwing punches, and he doesn't have all this fancy kung fu.
Yep.
And he's just, hitting people with guns and shit. It's like the way that scene plays out is just so... That was probably my favorite fight scene in the movie.
Cocaine dust getting kicked up in the air.
People getting thrown onto tables and being like, oh, God.
They do not pay me enough for this.
So yeah, I kind of loved things like that.
Yeah.
In the movie.
No, and that goes back to the location thing too. I think a lot of kung fu movies, are in more open areas, and that gave this one more of that like video game or horror movie, even like diving into the unknown, and trouble could be around any corner as you are progressing through it. Was very tense and very effective.
I've always kind of loved the concept of a movie where you have to go up levels, for lack of a better term. Like Bruce Lee did it in Game of Death, where he had once again a tower, and he had to defeat each person on each floor to make his way up to his ultimate goal.
Yeah.
The movie, the Judge Dredd remake / reimagining, just called Dredd, that came out years ago, had a very similar plot line to The Raid, and I looked it up afterwards, and Dredd came out afterwards. So that I'm sure that was, it's about cops who have to go up a drug slum to find a drug dealer. Okay, that's
I don't see the similarity there that you're trying to point out.
So I've always kind of while I'm not a huge fan of, like I said, bottle films, I love this concept of tiered violence, almost like, oh, you think the guy on the last floor is strong? Wait until you try me. And I love the idea that someone's like, let me put the guys in ascending order of who's strongest.
Totally. What it totally reminded me of, and this is going to be silly, Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door.
Explain.
I've
never played it.
It's like an RPG version of Mario, and this is like one of the second or third ones in the franchise. But there is an area that you can get to that it's this, but down instead of up. It's 100 floors, and you go down and you fight, and once you beat them, you go down again, and you can only exit back out to the top like every 10 floors or so.
Yeah.
And so the goal is to be strong enough to get through all 100 levels and beat the bad guy at the bottom.
And actually, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories has a very similar plot line as well. It's about a tower, and the higher you go, you go up in this tower, and there's various levels on each floor, and the higher you get, the closer you get to discovering the secret behind this tower, but the more you forget about your own life. So it's like, there's a lot you can do with this idea of ascending or descending.
This would make the perfect arcade shooter.
Oh, 100%. Like, in times, it's like it almost, especially because it's made in 2011, so it still has that early 2000s feel, where they were making a lot of adaptations of video games. Like if someone would have been like, "Oh, The Raid was a really popular, shooting game," like I can see it.
Yeah, totally.
And that's not a slight against it, because
and a lot of video game adaptations are not effective.
No. But I like them.
But this was
for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. And that's cool, yeah. And I'm not referencing Super Mario Brothers in particular there.
But we're not going to have that conversation again.
Like the House of the Dead. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this was actually good, and I'm not saying that it was based on a video game, but it had that video game. It felt like you were playing a video game without a controller in your hand. But done effectively.
Yeah, like if they were to make a Raid video game, it would probably do really well.
I'd play it. Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, I don't know if it's going to make its way into the episode. I lost my notes. I accidentally deleted them, so I don't have any notes for this episode, Flounder, so don't be too pissed off at me. But Nick, what other notes do you have, so we can kind of see where the conversation goes?
I found the music very effective, and until you read the intro, I didn't realize I don't know how much of the music. You said Linkin Park?
Mike Shinoda specifically from Linkin Park did a lot of the music along with another gentleman by the name of Joseph Trapanese.
Okay, which makes sense. You can kind of hear that. Not that I was ever a huge Linkin Park listener, but I found it, like, the way that it pulsed and droned did a lot to add to the tension. In a film that didn't need music to feel tense, that continued to amp it up. And I'll go back to that sequence where they where just started turning bad when the alarm got hit, and that kind of like wow wow of the alarm, but the tension and everybody holding still, waiting to see how this is going to go down. The music was really great there in particular.
Yeah, like it'd have like a constant beat going, and like I said, the music got big when it needed to be, and would be kind of like crazy and fun, and then it would soften when it needed to be, because I feel like that's sometimes a thing that a lot of action movies don't know how to do, is to soften itself. Essentially.
And you need the valleys to appreciate the peaks, right? It's like
I agree with you.
Like how you were describing in our Terminator episode, the good thing happens, bad thing happens, good thing happens, bad thing happens. Like, you need that back and forth for action.
Yeah, 100%.
Again, because could we talk more about the lighting? Sure. Could we talk more about the camera angle? Sure. But I don't think I would say anything that hasn't already been said. My final wrap up, and it's just an expansion on what I said in the beginning. Did I feel that this movie was important? No. And most movies that we discuss, Your Hunter from the Future, is that movie important? No. I still love it. I don't think
Savage Harbor is not important.
It has Ace Stallone. What they did, or what they were trying to do, they did very effectively. And if that's what you're looking for, then you are going to love it.
Yeah, and it like I said, I liked it enough that it's like I want to go see the second film. They raised the bar so high for an action film on this one. It's like I want to see what they do with the second one, and I heard from multiple people that the second film is even better.
Okay,
in terms of as an action film,
I would say the last 10 to 15 minutes brought it up to that level for me. Without that, like, brother relationship and how they both stayed in their world, like, for the same reasons that he's a cop, the other one is in this drug empire. Like, if they had supported that more, I don't think it would have taken away from it being a great action film, but I think it would have made it a better film overall.
Yeah, and actually, I kind of love that line, because the movie kind of lives in this moral middle ground, because, like you said, both brothers kind of have their reasoning, and I think Andy said something along the lines of, just because what I chose to do with my life is bad doesn't mean I can't be good at it.
Right, and there's a lot to explore in this setup with moral ambiguity, and that the cops are not the good guys and the drug lords are the bad guys. They have people in this drug organization fighting themselves at one point. At what point is family more important than duty to your organization? And the obvious corruption of the police force makes it so that they're not the good guys here. And there are I don't think one's better than the other, and that was interesting, and I would love to have seen more of that. Again, that's coming from the story guy.
And then, like, I love some of, like, the moral middle grounds we're talking about. Like, so it's like, here are all these drug addicts who are going after and trying to kill people, but, like, they have kids.
Yeah.
Kids are living here, and then, like, the Kung Fu fighter Mad Dog, like, he he takes Rama to a place, and they put down their weapons and pretty much like, okay, let's do this for real.
Yeah,
You know,
though
'cause, like,
he
it's
does
like, it's not
say like he does it because like that's the way that he enjoys it the most, which makes him like a psychopath.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, it's like he can get the job done. He could kill the guy and be done. But it's like, I feel like it's almost like like he enjoys it most that way. But I feel like it's almost a respect thing. It's like, hey, if you can beat me, you deserve to live.
That he, I don't think that was his motivation, but I do think that that's part of his ethos of I know I can tit your ass, and if you can tit mine, then I don't deserve to be here.
Yeah. And then I like, and even like the main the ruthless drug dealer to an extent was just like, I just love how very low key he was about most things.
Yeah.
Like, the only time he ever seemed to get like aggressive is when he found out that Andy was potentially going behind his back.
Right, and he stabbed his hand. You know what? I really enjoyed the confrontation between the main drug lord and the older police sergeant.
Yeah, I did too.
Where there was a point where I'm like, this is where you're supposed to shoot him because he's the bad guy and you're no longer out of options, but you're not gonna. And then he shoots him. I'm like, thank you. That never happens in the movies. Like, they just talk at each other and then one of them gets away. And he did.
Yeah.
And then he went to kill himself, and in a very we just watched Taxi Driver and the click 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 kind of moment. No, I thought that played out in a way that I respected, because it wasn't just the cliches of what that moment usually is in a film.
Mm-hmm.
Which then allowed Andy to become the new. You're assuming, you don't really. It's not spelled out, but you're assuming then he is going to take over this drug empire.
I wish there would have been an after credit sequence of Andy in the complex just sweeping.
Pushing bodies with a push broom.
Yep. Gotta get it cleaned up for the next batch.
Putting out rental want ads and spacious 200 square foot minor machete stabs in the plaster.
Just minor, nothing crazy. Well, one of the rooms doesn't have a floor.
Yeah, right.
Other than that, we're good.
A handyman's dream.
So, yeah, like I said, I knew the reputation of this film, and I went in excited, but also a little skeptical, just because, like I said, this is not my normal go-to genre.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, it's an action film, but it also is a kung fu film, and I love those. So it's like I was kind of going in with mixed emotions, and I came out on the other end really enjoying it. I'm not Roger Ebert, where he gave the movie 1 star.
I wouldn't say that I really enjoyed it, but I did respect it for what it was. I don't know that I'm super eager to see the sequel. I'll probably never watch it again, but I definitely respected it for what it was.
You didn't have a terrible time watching it, is what you're saying.
Right. It's more of a lack of interest in how this particular one was put together.
Ain't no Phantom Toll Booth, that's for sure. Where's the math equations?
As you can tell, I have superior taste in movies.
No, okay. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, Nick?
Not on this movie, but I think this would be a great time to listen in on filmmaker, producer extraordinaire Dave Brown's what's on the top of his shame list.
Is that what we're calling the section now? What's on the top of your shame list?
Sure. I don't know.
That sounds good. That sounds pretty good.
It's a little wordy. If we come up with something better, then we'll change it. And until
What's on the top of your shame list?
I feel like it needs a game show. The crowd's like, what's on the top of your shame list? Or you could go with the Family Feud. What's on the top of your shame list?
All right, well, let's listen. What did you say his name was? Dan Brown?
Dave Brown.
Dave Brown, my mistake. Let's see what Dave Brown has to say.
Today on our little segment, I'm getting to talk to my good friend who is also a filmmaker, We were just talking about how my story of meeting you is very, very similar to my story of how I met our co-host, Michael Viers, through doing the film festival circuit for my film. But was Bird in the Hand your first film?
It was pretty much. I mean, you make stuff kind of the way your buddies. I should point out I'm Scottish, so no one who's listening to this is going to understand me. I apologise, but it is what it is.
Well, then they'll assume that like everything that you're saying is really important if they can't make it out.
Yeah, and it was pretty much so. I was living in Ireland, strangely enough, and then I just kind of made a short, kind of right before I moved back to the UK, and I had just about given it up, and then the film got into DC Film Festival. Then came in, my short showed right before yours.
Yeah, we started talking a little just before you came out. It's like, yeah, we gotta grab a beer, and then we fell in love over our mutual love of Weezer's Blue Album and
and Calvin and Hobbes.
And Calvin and Hobbes, yeah.
Generally been massive geeks with them. Yeah, but anyway, it's...
I don't think I've said your name yet. This is Dave Brown. I'm going to embarrass you here. I know you don't like hearing it. The Scottish BAFTA award-winning Dave Brown. Or nominated. Nominated or...
I won.
Just...
It was a short, and it's a Scottish BAFTA, not a real BAFTA. It still has the fucking thing on it, though, so I'm fine with that.
Right.
Are you... I presume you can swear in this.
Yeah, totally. Please, by all means. So, I want to hear 3 films that are on your Shameless. What's first up?
So, I overthought this as...
Perfect.
I was into... So I went into, like, pure art house nonsense and then went into, like, best 100 film lists and I've actually seen quite a lot of these. So I went 2 from recent times, so I'll get them out of the way fairly quickly.
Okay.
And the first is kind of Interstellar, which sounds like a film that I would love. It's spacey sort of stuff. It has kind of Matthew McConaughey. It's a Christopher Nolan film.
That is the only Christopher Nolan film that I have not seen.
Oh, okay. There we go. But for some reason, it was because my wife saw it, and then I'm not going to watch it kind of by myself. It's an event movie. It's not like you kind of sit down and go, "Oh, this is a nice
mellow watch for the evening."
But anyway, the other one is La La Land.
Okay.
It seems I should have seen, and it's not that I particularly want to watch kind of Ryan Gosling sing and dance, but at the same time, it won loads of kind of awards and stuff, and like as a filmmaker, watch things that win awards. Just can't be arsed, to be honest.
Perfect. Okay, so there's the 2 more mainstream ones, and then you have an art house one.
It's not an art house one by any means, but Krull.
Yes, I have. I have not seen any of your 3, but I do have a VHS copy of Krull waiting for me to have the right time to put it in.
Well, you could kind of digitize it and then watch it through a kind of super. Anyway, like it seems. I love 80s movies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a kids' film, I think, but it's got quite a violent kids' film with the special effects stuff, I think.
Like it seems like it's in the vein of Conan the Barbarian, or one that I've talked about before. It's a horrible B movie called You're the Hunter from the Future, which seems like they were trying to mash up like Conan the Barbarian and Masters of the Universe, but with dinosaurs also, and it didn't. Like, it's phenomenal in that horrible way.
It sounds a bit like Beastmaster.
Yeah, totally.
The same sort of cheesy kind of rip-off that is really watchable though when you're 15 and smoking a joint.
Right.
But yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, if you are able to watch any of those, we'll have to Skype again, and you can tell us what you thought, and we'll do an update on them.
I mean, I did tape Interstellar and La La Land off the cable box. I don't know what your equivalent TiVo.
Yeah, we have TiVo out here.
Yeah. I mean, though that we don't, that's why I know that you have TiVo through American TV. But we have Sky. It's called Sky.
Okay.
But anyway, it's the same. I've got them both kind of taped, and Crawl is just. I should probably just download it, to be honest, because
right. Just those filmmakers.
Independent filmmakers, screw them. No, God damn it.
They don't need money. They're sitting on all of that independent film money.
But I mean, it is mental because, you know, like, they've got the Disney thing coming. They've got, you've got kind of Netflix. I mean, you've got the Disney one now, do you?
Yeah. I have Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and the Disney Plus.
So, like, I mean, you can find, I mean, I find myself, I've got Netflix and Amazon, and I did have a similar thing in the UK called Now TV.
Okay.
It's another streaming crap.
Right.
And Mubi at one point.
Okay.
And yet you still find yourself kind of looking through stuff and going, just watching, like, I don't know.
Right.
Kind of something from the 80s, kind of Temple of Doom or something. And then you go on and you find it on Amazon and it's like £4 or £5, whatever, to rent it for a day. And you're like, no.
I can go buy for the same thing. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing, and we should do like a proper episode with you sometime that our listeners will only understand half of.
I'll try and come back actually with some different ones that are not quite. So I'm kind of disappointed with Interstellar and kind of La La Land. I could have got something more interesting, I think. I thought it, and then I went into, like, this is the Three Colors Red trilogy. This is like the. Do you know what I mean?
Right. You would, like, I want to get something really heady that makes me say, or La La Land, whatever works.
Kind of Oscar-winning crap.
Yeah.
But,
no, that was perfect. And it sounds, and you had said that essentially you've actually created this list for yourself, this list of films that you need to watch or want to watch.
Ages ago I did this. I started a spreadsheet because I'm a producer and that's what I do. I started it ages ago and added, like, and it just got ridiculous. I couldn't keep track of it.
Yeah.
Kind of, I still have it. It's on a Google sheet somewhere, but at the same time,
it's not something that is being actively managed.
I'm trying to watch a lot more movies though, because I found that, especially going to festivals and stuff, I was in kind of TIFF last year.
Okay.
And guess how many films I watched?
How many? 2? 1.
And guess what it was?
Yours?
Fucking Joker.
Oh.
Of all the films to see at a film festival, celebrating supposedly kind of indie filmmaking.
You watched the one that's going to be in all the theaters that you could have watched anywhere.
Exactly. I mean, to be fair, I watched it 2 months before I could watch it.
Sure.
But at the same time, I was like, oh, come on.
You got to do better.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even go with kind of Jojo Rabbit or something. Do you know what I mean? I went with the, like, anyway.
Had more of a indie feel to it.
And I'm going to the finale in 2 weeks' time or something like that. Not going to watch a single film because I'm there for 4 days to kind of pitch though for some money.
You're right. You're going to be working, not absorbing. All right. Well, thanks for being on the podcast.
Ooh.
Well, what an exciting no.
The joke is, I can't hear what it says until I edit it.
Okay. Well, so that was The Raid.
Yeah.
And that was Dave Brown.
Yeah.
And this is the Shameless Picture Show.
Yeah.
And we don't
if you're not down with that, I've got 2 words for you.
What are those 2 words?
Watch movies.
The Shameless Picture Show is recorded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin and Easton, Maryland, is hosted and produced by Nick Richards and Michael Viers, and is more often than not edited by Michael Viers. Any TV or YouTube versions of the show to date have been edited by Nick Richards, Tyler Hanna, or Dina Villani. Our opening theme music was written especially for us by The Directionals, with narration from Zach McClain. The end credit music you're enjoying at the moment was generously provided by my friends in the band 10 Speed, and our new kick-ass logo was designed by Amanda Viers. A special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters and to our generous sponsors at Mill Creek Entertainment and Vinegar Syndrome. We are on Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Google Play, and Libsyn. You can find links to all these tremendous folks, as well as the show, in the description below.